Hi, everyone. This is Natasha Brock, and welcome to a special episode of GME Admin Insights. Today, we're diving into a thought provoking group discussion on Dr. Harris Braxton's powerful book, Stay in Your Lane. I had the pleasure of sitting down with three exceptional GME guest speakers: Kino Williams, Kristine Marks, and Kristelle Grant Deterville, along with Dr. Harris-Braxton herself. And together we explored the book's insight, shared our personal reflections, and discussed how its principles can be applied in GME and beyond, right? You won't want to miss this rich conversation filled with wisdom, inspiration, and actionable takeaways from her book, right? So let's jump in. Let me know what you think.
This is your time to a new season, a new cycle. Just take it
Right.
easy. And again, like I said, I bought this for someone else just as a gift because sometimes you just need that
Yeah.
reminder. You need that reminder. It's necessary. So again,
Yeah.
thank you for this. Honestly.
Welcome. Harris-Braxton. I am the author of Stay in Your Lane, a book, Dream Without a Deadline, written for the team communication across the country, but specifically for my tribe, which is the GME professionals across the board. And it has been a pleasure to have all of you just to come and talk about the book. And I am thankful and grateful for you for purchasing this book and share it with your colleagues. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you stay in your lane, let me know. Thank you.
Kino Williams. I've been a SME downstate for about 22 years, currently senior staff associate. I've managed several programs from psychiatry, surgery, and most recently radiation oncology. It is a pleasure to have sat with this esteemed group. All
Oh,
right, amazing individuals, and I am truly honored and humbled.
thank you. Thank you, Kino. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Hello, my name is Kristine Marks, and I am currently the program coordinator at Allegheny Health Network for the Endocrinology and Infectious Disease Fellowships. I am fairly new to GME as I have only been a coordinator for 2 years and some days and change, but I've been with Allegheny Health Network for over 8 years, so I'm no stranger to healthcare. I'm truly honored and humbled to be here with my GME colleagues, and I'm very excited to discuss Stay in Your Lane.
I am Kristelle Grant Deterville from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, McGovern Medical School. I am currently the program manager and institutional coordinator here at UT Health. I have been within UT for about 8 years. Used to be in a program, now in the GME office. Um, GME has grown to be my passion. Um, a little too much, but I love it. I enjoy what I do. I miss my trainees, but I really love what I do. And I'm so happy to be here to even discuss this book and all the gems is located in there. So if you don't have a copy, please grab
Yeah,
one.
one.
Hey,
Yeah.
I am Natasha Brox, administrative director. Um, I've been in GME for 20 plus years. I don't want to date myself on that, but I love what I do. Love GME, everything GME. This book, almost kind of like reignited um, the professional development within me. But yeah, anything GME, I love to do. So, like Kristelle said, if you haven't received your book, then you're missing out. No other way to
Right.
say it. Well,
And,
so
and
I
I'm
will
glad that
say no.
resonated with you. That was one of the reasons. I used to run a program when I worked at UC Davis called Inspiring Minds. Because what I found was when I came there, a little backstory is that, I've always been talkative. We'll put it like that. Always been talkative. And so when I came to UC Davis, they were doing the kind of work that Kino said. I transferred from Oakland up to Sacramento, and when I got there, the team all they knew how to do was like copy stuff. They were like copying, and they had pieces of the work. And
Mhm.
I thought,
Yeah.
I know y'all don't think I'm coming here and I'm just going to be working. I need everybody in here. We all need to know how to do interviews and banquets and schedules. And that's not just my job. And they said, Juanita, that's what we did. The previous manager, she just had us doing, we did some things. I did the schedule, but that was it. I was like, oh no, this is a whole team concept.
Yep.
I know y'all don't think I'm the one that's supposed, everybody getting paid. So we're going to do this together. So I had to do, just that. I had to give them folders. I was like, okay, this is how a whole, start to finish. This is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. I'm like, because if I'm not here, the work still has to move.
The work has to be done.
And so what I was finding is that was the sentiment throughout the whole department. So what was so disheartening for me was that if we had an open position in our department, we could not hire our own people because they weren't qualified.
Yeah.
So they would come in and interview, and I was sitting on the interview panel, and I thought, how long has she been here? And they're like, oh, she's been here 5 years. I said, and this is all she knows? We can't hire her for this position. We can't hire our own people. We can't promote from within because you guys have been hoarding all the work like it's yours, And so my Inspiring Minds project was that we would get together, once a month if people wanted to come see what I did or what other departments did, or other units in our department, that you could do that. You could expand your mind. So, because it's not, we hold everything so close.
Yeah.
And GME, you are either passionate about it or you're not. I don't think that I don't think there's no middle ground. I think you either love this work or you're like, you know what, as soon as someone comes through here offering me $22, I'm out. I don't want to do this ever again. Because I think that it's personal. This work is personal. You know it impacts your residents, your fellows. You know that what you do or not do can mean them getting a certificate, them getting the credit that they're supposed to get, the hours that they're supposed to get, the cases that they're supposed to have counted or done. And if you don't connect in some way, but then you also have to disconnect, right? You have to go, okay, listen, this is a whole job and I have a whole life. I cannot let these people take over my life. And that's what the communication part of it was for me. And the wellness part was like, okay, I give a lot. I was all in when I was in GME, all in. My programs all ran like clockwork, but I was also a compassionate manager. I was also a thoughtful leader. I was also one of those people that go, you know what, it's not that serious. If we make a mistake, nobody died, nobody got hurt. Let's just laugh it off. Let's do better the next time. People are usually at one end of that spectrum, right? They're like all in, and anything that happens, they're just discombobulated if something happens. Or they're so lackadaisical that, their email went out with like 18,222 errors. Like none of that made sense. Oh, they understand what I'm saying. So it's hard to kind of bring it into a full circle. So my thought for this book was that people need to know where you stand as a person, right? I was not that person that hung out at work. I was not that person that went out drinking with my residents. I was not the person that went out socializing because I needed business to be business when I meant it to be business. So people knew that if Juanita called you, something had happened because she don't play around. She's not that person. And I made sure that was, it wasn't that I was antisocial or anything. I went to stuff that I had to go to and I was, cordial. But I made sure that my professional attitude was such that it couldn't be questioned.
Right.
They would trust me with information. If I came back and told you, thus said the ACGME, you could look that up and it was going to be for true. That I did not leave out anything, that I did not make this up. If I told you that something was done and we met a deadline, that you could trust that that's what it was. But that was my professional communication style, but I'm also like that personally. If you need me and you need to depend on me, I'm there. I'm not, I'm not two ways about it. And I think professionally, people get into a space like Kristelle was saying that, you just run, and then you realize that the people that you need to run with you are back there, right? You look back, you're like, what's up with this? I thought y'all was coming. They're like, yeah, but you may run a little bit faster than we do. You may, slow down a little bit, take a breath, or there's someone that needs extra help, right? And that's what we're finding with the millennials that we're getting into the business now is that they don't have that same work ethic that we had, years ago. We stay all night. We stay all day, all night. The millennials like
work on the weekends.
Braxton, it is 5:01. I should have been in my car.
Right.
I'm gonna get you tomorrow. Okay, can we do this tomorrow? And you're like, you mean you don't have 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
And so now you have to kind of regroup, right? You have to approach things a little bit different because now you have that whole spectrum. You have millennials, you have seasoned people, you have people that have come from a different profession that can bring those skills in. And so this book was sort of a collaboration of all of that. I'm a teacher as well, and I think that most of us do teach, in various ways. We're also helpers. We're also those people that don't breathe, but we also need to teach those that are coming behind them that there is a way to do this. You shouldn't be so frustrated at work. I used to go to conferences and administrators were crying because they were so overwhelmed. They didn't know how to communicate with their PDs. And so they felt beholden for the work. Oh my God, we're going to miss a deadline. I told him 22 times and then he's going to blame me. And so then we had to come up with strategies, right? You send him or her 1,000 emails with read receipts. You send him or her voicemails that you can track. You send him or her this information that you have done all that you can. Then you go on this side and say, what else can I do to facilitate? Maybe I'm not talking to them in the right way. Maybe they have some kind of combative relationship. And I used to tell, PDs and administrators, we're a team. I'm here to help you. If you don't need my help, just say that. Maybe I'm not your person. Maybe I'm not who you need. And I'm okay with that. Kristine said it. Sometimes if this is not your jam, as they say, then maybe it's time to move on. And I tell people that all the time, you all. If this is not your spot, it's not your spot.
And you have to be okay with pushing away from the table and leaving, though, too. You have to stand on principle and just be like, you know what? You got to be okay with leaving. I think that some people
should respect you too. That's something you choose. Yeah. Like you, as a person, came to that conclusion yourself. It had nothing to do with external factors. Right. But if it's not serving you, you're exactly right, Natasha. It is up to you to dig deep within yourself and have that conversation with yourself or maybe someone you trust, and just leave. If it's not serving you, then you have to do what's best for you. And sometimes doing what's best for you is hard.
Very
I'll counter that somewhat, because it's easy for us to say, look within yourself, and if it's not serving you, and you should then leave. But in the real world, it is not that simplistic. There are so many different things. You have families, you have mortgages, you have loans, you have children who are coming up. So just picking up and leave isn't as easy or as simplistic as we think it is. For instance, and I'll think so. I'm speaking at ACGME, giving one of the plenary coordinator sessions, the afternoon session, and part of it will be discussing my career. Yeah. And I stayed in a department a little too long, longer than I should have. And when I left, I was not necessarily the same person that I went in. And you stayed there because, hey, I have a home downstate, downsized a few years ago. And when I went into that department, I knew instantly that the department was not a match for me. I actually went to HR and said, hey, move me. And HR said, well, we can't move you right now. Downsizing is coming. You are in an administrative position, meaning that all of that list with all the persons who are going to be cut, it's going to come to you. So you will have the ability to take off your name. And I took off my name off of that list 3 different occasions. So at that time, I know that I had to stay. There wasn't a chance of going elsewhere. And after you downsize, you're like playing like, well, it's like you're almost like you're in La La Land because you don't know what's going to happen. It took 3 years for Downstate to rebuild from that downsizing. We didn't hire any person, any faculty, any staff during that period. So I literally was just there doing all that I was doing and taking on roles and responsibilities of other persons who had left. So I think there are so many dynamics to that in that it's just more complicated than saying, hey, it's not serving me right. Now, when it took time for me to leave, I definitely knew that this was my breaking point and I can't stay any further because it will lead to like sort of like a permanent destruction of who I was. And coming and leaving from that department and continuing on sort of had me sort of rebuild, renovate, reorganize all of the things that was made that I had, worked on for so many years. Now I had to come in. And then another thing I think that people take in consideration is that the amount of effort and work that you put in. So that department, I literally was running all of the divisions. I was responsible for bringing on about 15 faculty members, in addition to removing program citations, etc., and have a functioning program, and then to come to leave and not necessarily enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's something that also plays on the person's mind.
Absolutely.
And that is a big one to deal with for anyone to deal with, because hey, I've poured in, and like the Dr. Braxton said, weekends I would leave work at 8. I would come in on a Saturday, Sunday to get stuff done. You didn't have that remote where you could remote in from your home, the luxury of your home.
That part.
So I think there's so many things that play into that we just can't necessarily just dismiss it, that you just got to leave. Life occurs. I often say this, life happens.
Right.
You should be making an exit strategy then.
Correct.
Because I think that when we hear those stories, mental health is so important, and now it's dangerous to stay someplace where it preys on you. And I understand that. I knew people stayed in my office because of the flexibility. They had small children. They I was able to let them leave early because they could make it up on a Saturday morning, or they'll say, you know what, Juanita, I can't stay till 5 today, but I can stay till 7 tomorrow. I need to come late. And I realize that is a lot of it too, is that, we have to eat. It's cheaper to eat. We can't eating is a hard habit to break, as we used to say. And so people, have to do what they have to do. But I think in that same vein, you must be preparing yourself to do something else, because if not, it wears on you. This is
it does.
CME is one of those professions that you are so passionate about that it can harm your health, right?
Agreed.
Because you are coming on the weekends and on Saturdays, you're staying late because you want to make sure that you're available for your physicians that have different hours than you. I can't meet with my PD because he's doing surgery, all day, those kind of things. But I think at the same time, we need to be making an exit strategy. We need to be, then we need to go a different route, right? We need to figure out what can give us a little bit of joy in this job, right? Like, maybe I volunteer someplace else. I used to tell people that your job is so stressful, then that means when your downtime is all about you. If you love puppies, that means you're at the shelter on Saturday morning getting your fix so that you can build yourself back up to come to work on Monday. So you figure out what else to do. So we need kind of an outlet, because people are in that position that, they have to do what they have to do. But this is a job too that will kill you, literally. We know.
I'll say something. Well-being,
the whole 9. People, this job here will harm your health. But we have to have a balance, right? And it is about us. We need to know what we can do, what we cannot do, what we won't do. And we have to stand on that.
Right.
Some things we have to kind of go through, but there's some strategies that we can use to, sort of manipulate the situation as well. If I have to stay here because I need this job to eat, we're going to do a little bit shifting here and there, because I have to
okay.
things sanity while
Okay.
I'm here, you know. So I get that. I think that's a perfect example, Kino, is that, you know, people are in this job too. You know, when you get in, sometimes the pay is really good, depending on where you're from. You know, we have community, rural hospitals, we have all kinds of things. And sometimes this is people's foray into a university system where they can move around. So this is their first job in, so they don't want to give it up. But then, you know, I think that we have to employ every strategy then that we can to make sure that our mental health is protected. Because
I
I
think
think
that
a lot of times
well-being is something that
well-being. Yeah.
you oftentimes, at least for the administrative persons, and I'm speaking for myself, well-being was something you saw for the residents,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
the residents,
Mhm.
and it wasn't necessarily something for
Yes.
us,
Mhm.
you know. So I think that and touching in terms of the book, the fact that a chapter was dedicated to well-being
Yeah.
is so important because it confirms that our well-being
Yeah.
is as important as any other member of the team. So for instance,
Correct.
HGME came up
Or
and we
more,
put
or
all of
more,
these
you know.
rules.
Sometimes it's more important.
More.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We
You know,
hold
HGME came with all of these 80-hour work rules and all these different
right.
things that facilitate improve well-being of the residents. But then there was nothing for coordinators. And I'll say this, I think because of the fact that it is a female-driven profession, and women oftentimes put family before themselves,
Right.
and many coordinators take on a motherly role with their residents. Is like you don't ever put yourself first. You don't ever take your well-being. So you
Right.
stay with the program because you have a resident coming in, and for the next 5 years, they're going to be quote quote
Good.
like your
Right.
son or your daughter, and you
Right.
want to see them graduate. You want to see them do well. So you end up staying in a position much longer than you should have,
Right.
not making necessarily an exit strategy, and not
Right.
addressing some of the things that are currently in place that makes the workplace
Yeah.
not beneficial to you.
Right.
So well-being is, and then well-being back in the day, that wasn't a term that was routinely thrown around.
It was
Now it
not.
is.
Yeah.
And now we see the value of it. And
Yeah.
now we understand its importance in everyday life, our life, as well as of the persons who we interact with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I
And
used to say the
well-being is
same
so
thing,
important. So
we make sure that the faculty,
Yep.
have their wellness, especially with a lot of them committing suicide. We did the
yeah.
same thing with the residents. We even did it with the medical students. And I'm like, well, what about us?
Yes.
We carry the programs on our back. So what
Correct.
about the program coordinators, wellness? We never got anything. So I think that was one of my turning points of, okay, everything they should get, we should get.
Right.
Everything that
Agreed.
happens,
Right.
it
Agreed.
Right.
happens to us. It's
Agreed.
Right.
not talked about like
And
in
we
the
did that
college.
at the ACDB level. We
Right.
that was it was a big. Every talk that I give have a wellness component, and we talked about it. I was on the first coordinator advisory group, and it came up there first that
Mhm.
we were talking about that coordinators are being asked to be psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, the whole thing, and they're not
You
trained.
name it. You
They're
name
not
it.
trained
The
to
whole
be,
nine yards.
they're not trained to be this. And so we brought it up to
So key.
Dr. Naska at the time. It's like, listen, and I brought it up. You're asking people that do not have the skill set to be these therapists and be these psychologists, and these residents got real problems. Who's going to take care of them?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
we're the ones that you want us to call them, see how they're doing, and all of that. Who's going to take care of us when we can't handle that? You think everybody can handle, someone telling them that their marriage is broken up, or they've had a death in their family? That's what you're asking administrators to do.
Right.
And
But
so we
I'll
have
tell
to,
you
What we
this.
do is
yes,
run the
ma'am.
program.
But the only thing I wanted to include is that yes, we're motherly and whatnot, but I have noticed with even my coordinators that I don't know if they're just broken down so much that they're so set in their ways. Like the culture is like, I'm just going in, let me do what I need to do and be gone.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them want to socialize or even network.
Yeah.
Granted, some of them are still remote, but even when we have virtual stuff, they're not engaging.
Yeah.
They're just like, let me do this. I love my trainees. I've been here for 1,000,001 years. Let me do what I need to do and be
Yeah.
gone. But again, from a GME office standpoint, in helping them and giving them the resources and having social activities to, support them, hopefully that would change their mindset and, of course, bring their well-being at the forefront instead of someone else's.
Right.
Well, we can do other people, but we got to put ourselves first, so
I
No,
would,
that's
I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think that my generation as a whole too doesn't always have a growth mindset there, where a lot of people are stuck in their ways and they're not willing to branch out or explore various options. They've just been doing one thing one way, the same way for so long. And it's not that the excuse that you can't teach a dog new tricks can apply to GME, because like medicine, we're always evolving, right? Technology is evolving, various things are evolving. So I feel like it is part of our role to be willing to evolve. And if people like Kristelle or in our GME office are willing to provide us with the resources and communicate that to us, like, hey, I'm having a virtual training like this. I understand you've been doing it for this way, but Thalamus is a prime example.
Right.
So many people have used ARIS-PWS. When I started, I mean, that was 2 short years ago, but I started with ARIS-PWS and I loved it. And then this year we used Thalamus and it was a learning curve. But yeah, I had to sit there and do the live trainings and go to Thalamus University. And is it exactly how I would like it to be? Absolutely, positively not. But I made a list of things that I could improve upon for the benefit of not only myself, but for my programs and for my institution. I'm not an institutional program coordinator, but I went to my GME office and I said, there's this thing called Padlet that people are sending on their Thalamus page. Can we make it universally accepted because our firewall is blocking everything? Can I make sure that I can actually log on to this and create something? Sure. It was just a simple, quick question, but you have to be able to evolve and you have to be, as things change. I mean, we study history, so we don't repeat history. So you have to be able to grow and adapt and build upon your skills. And if you are willing to build upon your skills and you're willing to outsource that information and work with your GME office or your leadership or your program director or whomever it may be, you're only benefiting yourself and others around you.
I think it has to be across the board too.
You're muted.
She muted herself.
You're muted.
It says the host. I'm not the host. Okay. Am I unmuted? Okay.
Yes. You're unmuted.
I think that it has to be across the board. It has to be, everybody needs this basic intro to GME. They need to have the same, books like this book here and different books that we have. We need to be able to share them across the spectrum, because I think that in each individual, GME is so collaborative, but it's so individual, right? That Florida does something different than New York, does something different than California, or surgery does something different than emergency medicine and primary care. But I think that the introduction of GME needs to be the same across the board, because I think that in some instances, you don't get the training that you need. You don't get the intro. You don't get the foundation first. So then you learn a different way, right? So, when I came in and the way I taught my folks was hands-on. We're all going to do this together. If you have any questions, there's, if you need extra help, blah, blah, blah. But now in my same division, it's all separate, right? Everybody has their own program now. Everybody does, the way they want to handle their program. And so it takes away the team concept. I think the team concept has kind of left GME in a way, because everybody's doing different things in silos. It's either based on programs or my GME institution, HCA and all of these other places that are buying up all of these kind of GME components are teaching their people a different way. And I think that when you kind of meet with people, you have all learned something different. So you're
Mhm.
like, I didn't know that. Or, oh, I didn't feel that way. That's why when you go to conferences, when you see the array of things that are being done, you're almost like overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God, I never even thought of doing that. But it's because we don't get the same foundation. There is no more old school training. You come in, the last person there, or the first, whoever wants to help you helps you. There's now GME administrators and coordinators that work in offices that there are no other GME personnel. The only person they have contact with is the department. And, if something happens, then here comes the DIO and some GME personnel. So I think that it's GME really needs
Right.
sort of like a basic foundation that everybody goes through, just like the residents. When they come into surgery, everybody starts as a PGY1. You get the same training across the board.
Right. Right.
When you come into GME, you don't get that. You
Well,
get
and
it from
that's why they
whoever's
have a
there.
GME office. Because I know where I came from, we didn't have a GME office. We didn't have, anybody. We had to do the program coordinator and the GME stuff. So it was like if you didn't have that foundation, you didn't know what you were doing.
Right.
Right. And so instead of developing or making a GME office, it was like, well, you have to run your program, you have to do your GME. And it was like, well, can we just take one person who knows and just start to create a GME office? Like at least that.
Right.
And that was never, but I think that you're right, Dr. Broxton, because just like with ACGME, they created that handbook now. So they have a foundation with ACGME, they have their acronyms, they have everything. But we should have something with GME. And a lot of people think it's the same thing, but it's not. It's totally different from, ACGME. Because you have to do, you're doing your ACGME stuff, but you're not, GME is a whole nother playing field from when you're in a program from ACGME.
Right.
So I think that's one thing. There was a foundation.
GME is specific to, a lot of times there are elements that are specific to the individual institution itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I'm at SUNY Downstate, this is a state-run organization. The way how our GME functions will definitely be different from, say, from Mount Sinai, which is not state affiliated, which is not state governed. So I think, and when I first started, we had a GME office, but a lot of the work was actually being done by the program. So we would onboard all of the residents, set them up in the system and stuff like that. But then things sort of changed later on as we came on board and we had new innovations, and a lot of things was then moved and centralized through GME in our organization. So the programs we coordinators, we actually have a lot less to do, I would think, especially with the onboarding and setting people up in the system and stuff like that. But it is specific to the institution. I was on ACGME institutional workshop last week, and we were speaking about DEI, the DEI training and stuff like that. And for instance, Texas cannot have anything related with DEI in it, associated in any of their institutions. So what they were able to do was to be creative and lump a lot of the DEI stuff within well-being.
Right.
And you look at it, and that's, again, it's definitely, GME would be very different in Texas as opposed to New York, where we are DEI driven.
But the foundation almost is still the same, know?
Right. So there is some differences between that. But I do think that coordinators at a large would benefit from undergoing training right through, and especially specific institution training. So one of the things that we were looking here at SUNY Downstate was to create, and I pulled up this booklet. This is one other book, in addition to a book, right? Which is from Brooke Moore, the Residency Coordinator's Handbook. So that I'm looking at in terms of building out little training sessions and sort of even video learning, sort of, so that we can have this and create sort of a library for all of the coordinators here at Downstate, so that they come in and everybody has pretty much the same understanding, or same knowledge, or don't know exactly where to access that. I
Right.
think
Yeah,
that's what the
yeah,
key is. A
That's
lot of it is
So
access, you
yeah.
know?
I want to chime in because actually last week I attended one of the Army meetings,
Mhm.
and goodness, I forgot the name of the institution. I'll remember in a minute, but they created a whole toolkit of
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And they shared it with everyone, which is awesome. But again, institutionally, it is a good idea to have your own. This is how we do it here at UT
Correct.
Houston,
Correct.
right?
right,
Um,
right.
and even to add to that, we just reinvigorated our boot camp.
Yeah,
One of the days, even before I even got there, here, it's my understanding there was a boot camp. Now I said to my boss, I mean, hey, we have a lot of new people coming
yeah.
on.
Mhm.
They're asking me these questions. Yeah, I could have one-on-one sessions with them, but just open it up to everyone. And we did have a really good session. I think it was October. But again, the timing, because now it's interview season and
Right,
whatnot.
right, right, right.
And it was just so robust, but it was good. And the information is saved. The coordinators could access it at any point in time. So yeah, you're right. Having these tools, having these resources available to them to know, okay, this is how I need
Right,
to navigate through my institution is
right.
very it's necessary. Not only ACGME, but your institution as well.
It
Yeah,
It
is.
yeah,
helps them out. Like it gives them a feeling of, they have that support. Because when you're new to this role, especially, new program coordinator, it's like, where do I go? What do I do? You can get
Yeah.
frustrated and say, you know what, I'm out. I'm leaving.
right,
Or you can
right,
come in with that foundation and
right,
say, okay, I feel like I have it. Or if I don't have it, I know where to go to get it,
Right.
but I feel secure in my role and not just here's your desk, here's your keys, computer, have at it. And you're like, well, what do I do?
What do I
Especially
have?
with no,
Mhm.
no
and
hands.
that's what we want. That's what
Right.
this book was about. Is adding to your toolkit. Is to be another resource for you to use to, to help people kind of figure out what their communication strategy is. To have them do some self introspection as to what they bring. It is geared towards GME administrators because once the ACGME said that that's the lead person administratively, that gives us the license to kind of know and grow with what we have to do. And I think that it's, if we just keep adding different tools to everybody that we can, build our own library, so to speak, so that we have some tools to share. And, what works for some may not work for others, but at least everybody has the same information. That residency coordinator's handbook has been around a long time. I remember when it first came together. I remember Ruth Nwatiak and some of these other people that,
Yes. Yes.
that were my peers, and we kind of all grew up together in the DME sphere. That what we wanted to do was put together some information that people had at the ready, that you could read some things that kind of resonate with you, that kind of give you food for thought, that say maybe I need to think about the way I receive information, the way I send out information, the way, people communicate with me, the way I communicate with other people. Am I getting what I need? And that's where all those tools come together. The residency coordinator's handbook, AMI has stuff, INSAMA, ACGME has things that you can download. And that's all we wanted to do, was be a resource for people, that you could have some additional information. As Kristine said early on, it's many ways to skin this cat. It's a lot of ways to do this job, but people have to have that information available to them. And some places, as Kino said, they give you money to go to conferences. Sometimes it's still hard for people to get out because money is tight now, and it'll probably become tighter in the coming years. So, one person gets to go to a conference, not everybody. So I think that it's, if we have this information available, and those of us that are in our institutions that can help put together this information, we see the need and we feel the need, so that we're not doing, one-on-one conversations with everybody when there's 20 people that need to hear it.
Correct.
If we can do it
Correct.
at one time, then we can field the questions. And, we got Zoom now. So, you can do a lunchtime discussion with people if they want to talk about the book or they want to talk about anything. They just want to run some ideas. We have this format now that we can do this. So there's many ways to do this now. When we just want to be a resource to
I'll
people,
tell
you
you.
know, no one way is good.
I
But
enjoyed I enjoyed Stay in Your Lane, and as you can see, they're all like tagged out with all the
yeah,
topics. And one of the things that I spoke to some of the other coordinator forum here, SUNY Downstate, is to have everyone purchase copies and distribute the copies to all of the coordinators here, so that way we can, and we have monthly meetings. We can even bring these things up, bring
yeah,
stuff, your leadership style, how you communicate. I've done a lot of stuff here in radiology with on communication, on leadership. And you know, what I like about this book is that it's simplicity.
yeah,
It isn't anything, it's sort of demystifying a lot of these terms and these things, because in our minds, we make these things much more elaborate, much
right,
more, you know, difficult or much larger than they probably should be. But you were able to sort of just break things down into ways that, into words that we all understand, we all can apply. I think that was one of the things that I thought that stood out, because a lot of the information that we talk about, you can apply it to your everyday
right,
living,
right,
and that it's relatable. You know, it's from a perspective similar to mine, because how often times you'll see that there is coordinated stuff and then you'll see an MD speak as opposed, or a clinician speak, as opposed to hearing someone who had lived
right.
and
That's
walked
right,
within my shoes.
Yes.
right,
You
right,
know, so I
right,
think those are the things that, in terms of the book, and if it is that everyone has the same knowledge in terms of communication and understands their communication style, understand how to sort of interpret other communication styles of individuals. Because I think that's key. Communication in of itself is just a process to exchange ideas, you know.
yeah,
And once we understand that and we say, okay, it's not that difficult. I may like to, I may be very verbose and like to speak a lot. Some person may be less verbose and would prefer an email, etc.
right,
These are the things that we sort of, that, you know, you can teach
mhm,
anyone entering the field so that they're equipped with skills that can take with them throughout their careers. I think that's one of the key things that we want to, that this book sort of brings up and discusses. And you talked about communication. You said it was three things. It was compromise, um,
yeah, yeah,
consistency,
yeah,
and collaboration.
yeah, yeah,
You know, elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of
yeah.
what you think for that, because I thought that was an interesting portion there.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we need to recognize how we communicate with people and how people communicate with us. You know, we have to be collaborative. You know, in order to do this work, you have to be, and you have to understand, you know, who you're talking to, because every group that you talk to receives your information differently, right? So for me, successful communication is when I tell you something and you tell me back, and we're on the
Correct.
same way. Not if I, because people tell us a lot of information and it goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm like, people are just talking. Are they talking to me? What is happening?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it compromises us in a way that we have to recognize that if I said, Kino, meet me at 1 o'clock at the corner of, that you tell me back, Dr. Braxton, I'm going to meet you at 1 o'clock at the corner of. I don't
Yeah.
want you to say, oh, well, what time are we meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, well, where are we meeting?
Red
You
flag.
know, I think that we miss communicate with each other, not intentionally, but we don't get the full back and forth, right? So if you tell your program director this deadline is this date, the deadline is December the 15th, and they come back and ask you, oh, what was the deadline again? Then you didn't communicate with them
I agree
because
with
they
you.
did not receive that information, right?
And
So
I
there,
mean, Dr. Braxton, you just
yep.
mentioned program directors. My program director actually just reached out to me too. She was like, "Is this book just for coordinators?"
No,
No, it's
No,
not.
that was
It's
correct.
not.
for entire GME personnel. And I mean, to piggyback off Kino, I bought the book, was so excited to have my gratitude call last month with you. And then I went to my manager and I shared it with my team and I was like, I think we need to start implementing some of these activities or some of these questions into our monthly meetings. Like, these are discussions that we should be having both with our team, with our leadership, and amongst ourselves too. How can I communicate better? I mean, I'm doing an entire scholarly activity project that, fingers crossed, if all goes well, will be published in 2026. But I want to take the Myers-Briggs personality test because all of us deal with various personalities throughout our life, throughout the day. I shared earlier, I'm very introverted, even though I present very extroverted, and I think differently, and I'm neurodivergent, and it comes across differently because neurotypical people, I'm trying to process the information a little differently, but how I communicate to you my needs and how my leadership communicates to me and how my trainee communicates to me and how I communicate with the GME community is very important. And I need to learn how to do that in order to be an effective leader. And I think that, well, yes, this is also for GME personnel. I mean, this is a leadership book too. This is just in general, if you want to be at the forefront of whatever you're doing. I mean, you could take this book and, well, yes, a lot of it's applicable to GME. You could be in finance. I could and say, hey, I need to know how to communicate this spreadsheet and this deadline to you. Like, the end of the month is due, I don't know, December 31st. But if you're not communicating well and you're not being a great leader, then are you really serving yourself, your programs, and your leadership well? But I know Kristelle has her hand raised. I feel like I've talked a lot.
Patient. She's been so patient.
It has been, and I've
Listen, that is part of the characteristic of being a leader. You have to listen, correct? Be patient and listen, which actually brings me into my question, which is basically you're using all the good gems in this book in terms of how to communicate and being part of a team and what have you. But what if it's not reciprocated? You're doing all these things, but you're not getting that from your team. Like, what do you
I think that there's different strategies, right? So I think that if it's not being reciprocated, then it's a deeper discussion that needs to be had, because certain people learn in different ways. And so then it almost becomes individual. Like, I tell people, meet me on the corner at 1 o'clock. What part of this did you not understand, right? Did you need it visually? Did you, is there some kind of block here? I think that we have to be open, and also we have to go, I've tried every single thing to communicate with you. I've tried every strategy. Now you have to communicate with me. Tell me what you need. Tell me exactly what you need, because I've given you everything. I've written you an email. I've called you. I did a video session with you. And I think that there are people that are just hardwired that way. We actually had this discussion yesterday with a former coworker of mine, about a trainee that I hired before I left. So that's been 3 years ago. And I hired him as a coordinator. And he still to this day cannot understand how to get on, schedule people. He can't understand that this is an inappropriate way to speak to people. It's all of those things 3 years later. And I'm like, have you done this? Have you done that? She's like, yeah. I said, some people, this is just the way it is.
And you
And we have to recognize it's not a fail.
We all want to.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Not a fail.
No. I also like to add too, I think it's important to be your authentic self too, and not to get discouraged in the moment. Like, yes, it's easier said than done, but if you are doing everything in your power and it's just not being reciprocated, you still have to remind yourself of your worth. And again, so much easier said than done, right? especially when you're in difficult situations like you discussed earlier, Kristelle. And I mean, I've been in a similar situation. Kino discussed some of his career. I was at one point too in my career, very early in GME, stuck in a program where I wasn't happy. I was leaving crying, and I was trying so hard to communicate with leadership and the GME office, and I was doing everything I could, and I kept being so hard on myself that things weren't being reciprocated. But the reality was, I really was trying to do everything that I could to find a solution that would benefit all. So well, yes, there may need to be a bigger and deeper conversation. I think too, it's always helpful to remind yourself and reflect like who you are as a person, how your communication style works, and even sometimes how far you've come, and just relish in the journey that you have. Because while things may seem difficult at the moment, like let's say a trainee, no matter how many times you remind them, and I know this is a national problem, you remind them to log their duty hours or work hours, and they just don't do it, even though you've been reminding them for the last 6 months, and your CCC is Wednesday, and they still haven't done it. You've done all you can, and now it's up to my example. I'm a coordinator, so I would expect me to communicate with my leadership and my program director. All right, now you know I've done everything I can. I've sent reminders, calendar invites, new innovations emails. I've done everything. Now it's up to leadership to have that deeper conversation with that trainee.
What consequences? Consequences have to happen too.
Right.
You know, sometimes it just has to, you know, I don't think that you can go down a long road with some things. Some things just as consequences, like this gentleman, you know, I said he just has to be moved. I mean, if this is not his thing, it's not his thing. You have communicated with him, and consequences need to happen for not, you know, especially if it's something that you got to meet a deadline, or, you know, we're trying to, you know, turn a program or trying to do different things, that consequences have to happen. And you have to be okay with that. I realize that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, that I can't reach everyone, but I try hard. I try really hard. And then once I don't, I go, you know, maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about them. And I've done all I can. And so I just step back. I just go, you know, I've done my very best here. And once you realize that, I think as a leader, you're okay with, like, you know, stepping back and let whatever happens, because sometimes it is consequences for not following the directions, for not doing this. And I try to save people. I don't ever want to see someone let go. I don't want to see someone harmed at work. I don't want to see any of those things. But if I've done all I can do and you have not done all you can do, the consequences is going to be on you.
Right.
And, you know, I'm just going to have to move on, you know, because we spend a lot of time trying to make everything move, and we have to know our limitations and what we can do and what we can't. And once we have employed everything, sometimes you have to seek help from outside. Sometimes people hear, just like your children, you know, you tell them something 40 times, and then their aunt comes and tells them one time and they do it. They're like, I've been telling you to do that 3 months, and she comes sailing through here and you just do it. Sometimes they need to hear another voice, and sometimes we have to be bold enough, and we have to be confident enough to go, maybe it's and I always say it's not me, because it's not personal. I don't make things personal with people. So I'm the bomb.com. I don't understand if people can't follow my lead. I'm not sure what's happening. But I also realize that sometimes it's maybe it's the way I deliver it. Maybe they can't hear it from me. Maybe they need to hear it from someone else. And if that person tries and they can't, then, you know, we've done all we can. Because, you know, even the best advice, people just go. But if they hear from someone else, it's like it's brand new, and you're like, wow, I've been telling you that for a year and a half. And someone else tells you this last week, and you thought, you hear what they're saying? And you're like, are you kidding? I've been telling you this forever, and now you act like this is new. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes another voice. And that's okay. And that's okay.
And you know, Braxton, it was something that we had talked about too, when I was thinking about her question. Once you give them the information, it's like, we talked about documentation. You can just follow up with an email for our conversation,
Yeah.
hey, and then it's out of your hands, like she said,
Yeah.
you have your documentation. So you can talk to me, okay, well, I've done this. I've told you what needs to be done. I've communicated to you. And that's what the book brought out too, in person and via email. And so now it's in your hands. So what it's up to you to take it or not take it, use it or not use it. If I told you a direction to take, I've communicated it to you, it's documented. And like she said, there's consequences now. So it's no longer up to you to make sure, to continue to communicate with that person, whether it's residents or your coworker, or since you're in the GME office, program coordinators. So once we communicate to you, and I'm going to follow it up with the email, it now lands on you. So whatever your director, your supervisor, your manager, whatever they want to do with that, with you, it's out of my hands. So it's off my back. It's out of my thoughts. Let's just move forward.
Yeah.
And one other thing,
Documentation is so important. Documentation is vital, and I am that person. And not only to let us see what has transpired, but it also acknowledges your accomplishments, your progress. When you document things and you can go back and read it, you go, wow, I have progressed from this point to this point. Or I didn't realize that it took so much time to get point A done or point B done. I didn't realize that we've had, these conversations for this long, or that it took this long to do anything. And I think documentation helps us grow as leaders as well, that we can go back and say, hey, you know what, I employ different tactics with this person, or hey, we accomplished this. It took us 3 months from start to finish. I think documentation takes it out of your hands and sort of finalizes it.
and I'll say something in terms of, so I can't really speak to having problems with any of my residents, and I've had residents from surgery, psych, radiation oncology, and a lot of it is because I establish upfront at time of orientation. If you see me page you, the expectation is that you're going to return my call within an appropriate period of time. I don't send unnecessary emails. So you see an email from me, the email needs a response. And these are things that I've established throughout. And like, for instance, my last program, radiation oncology, when I came in, we had a situation where the residents would only meet with the program director in the presence of the DIO. And immediately I was like, this can't function, because the program director needs to be able to function as the program director.
Right.
Separate. So I shut that down immediately. And I'm like, and then I met with each resident individually, established a rapport, understand where they were going, where they were coming from, cited issues. I also met with every faculty on the program to get their site. For instance, there were problems with one of our participating site. They were supposed to be the sponsoring site. I'm sorry, they're supposed to be the primary site, but it switched, and the faculty felt slighted and offended, so they were not involved. In order for the program to function, I need to get everybody involved. So they would not respond to normal emails or telephone calls. So I literally went to the office and met with each person individually. I wanted to hear what your grouse was. I wanted to hear what your concerns was. And then I took stock of that. And then as I corrected them, I informed them, hey, I followed up on your concern. This is what I had. This is what we come up with. This is the solution. This is what, hey, I can't fix this right now, but we want to keep it in the parking lot and we're going to keep working at it. And I think a lot of times, some of the issues that we have is because we have not been able to communicate effectively and fully with all the people that we're dealing with. And we may use a one size fits all, and that just doesn't work, depending on the situation, depending on the individual, and depending on the task before you.
So, I'm interested to hear that.
Pardon me?
How would you do that with coworkers, like maybe your program coordinators or your program supervisors?
In terms of that, so for instance, I normally meet. So adds to me now, I'm also like the performance improvement administrator for radiology. So I meet with the individual managers to discuss projects. And it's not necessarily that it's my idea, but I throw out stuff so that they're inclusive. In terms of if I send an email and I don't think that it was fully understood, I often go to them where they are in their place of conflict and will address it, bring it up, raise it. Hey, tell me, are we working on this? How are we doing? In addition to the choice of words. So it may be that I am instructing, having something done, but when you use things like we, us, it makes it more friendly
Yeah.
and welcoming
Collaborative.
as
Yeah.
opposed to I am your boss and I'm going to tell you get this done and I need to get it done.
Exactly.
That often doesn't work, and especially doesn't work with the youngsters coming in. The young
Right.
people don't understand that. That is sort of the backdated type of interaction.
Yes.
And I
It
agree, Kino. I think the weight of your words and your word choices do carry your message,
correct.
right? So, I mean, that's something that I personally was taught in English class. I know not everyone is taught that way, and I'm very nerdy and I enjoy writing, but no, I agree. What I say in an email, I mean, I think I'm very articulate, but maybe you didn't understand what I was saying, and maybe my word choice threw you off. So yeah, I'm not afraid. I'll go to your office and ask you the
Yeah.
question, and I'll
Right.
ask you a different way with different words
Right.
And
for the
that
same
going
meeting.
and that
You
going to
may
the
have to meet them
office
somewhere else. You may have
and
to
that
meet
going
them
to the
outside
office
of it.
gives them power and control because you're coming into their turf.
Right.
So thereby, it makes you less of a threat or less abrasive in interaction with them, interacting with persons. Because hey, this is my firm. When you come into my office, this is mine, baby. I control everything in this room.
Right.
I think that is one of the things that helps us. Another thing that helps you is your integrity. So if it is that you are deemed someone who is honest, who is trustworthy, who is fair, you will find that you will receive much more receptive behavior and interaction from other people person that you interact than if someone who you change your words every Monday morning, you throw staff under the
Right.
bus, all of these things. Because I know there are people here at where I work that I will not support anything that you give me, period. I don't care I don't care your title, I don't care. No, but then there are other persons here that I will stand in the gap for you
Right.
from start to finish, just because I see you as someone of high integrity, someone who is honest, someone who actually has my best interest at heart. I think with me and my programs, most of the people I've interacted with, from the DIOs to the program directors to the residents, they all know that I want absolutely one thing, the best for the trainees. However, to whatever ends that is, the best. And as such, they've been very receptive in terms of interacting with me. And, you know, I text, I make personalized relationships. I think that is key with your residents. And you don't have to go out to drink with them. You don't have to go out to party, what have you, or you may choose to. But I have all of them, every resident has my cell phone, as they know they can text me throughout the course of the day. I've had text messages at 2 a.m. and I get up early in the morning, so I will respond. And some of my last chief, the chiefs, we were texting at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And that is not something that will work for everyone.
Right.
But it works for me and it works for them. And they feel very supportive of everything and I'm very engaged in all that we do. So I think building that relationship kind of helps you, and it also helps you get over the hump. So like if someone has problems, I've had a resident who
But do you do that with your staff too? Because I think it's important that your
it's
staff,
important with your staff.
you
So
need them
like
off site. Your staff,
correct,
your fellow
correct,
coordinators, if they're in your
correct.
area, they need to feel that if you're their manager, they need to feel like you're accessible. And you don't have to
Accessible.
meet with them there in the office because, like
Agreed.
Kino said, my office was my home, so you come in here. It's everything is Juanita's way when you come in here. But if I needed to meet you on a neutral place, I would tell some coworkers, that worked with me and they didn't want other people to know other people were meeting with me. I'll meet you down the street. I'll meet you across the street at the education building.
Yep.
I'll meet you at the restaurant around the corner. If you need to speak to me and you don't want other people to know, because I wanted to be that person that I was able to pull the best out of them but that they could also trust me, that they could
Yeah.
also bring all of their concerns to me.
Yeah.
And I would tell them up front, as long as no one is being harmed, because I'm a mandated reporter. So if something is going on, like, you're
Mhm.
fighting, or, you're in some kind of domestic violence or some kind of abuse, I'm
Mhm.
going to everybody I can think of. But if you're just coming to share something with me, and I am able to keep that confidential, I certainly will. And I told my residents that too. You can tell things to me. However, if there is harm or anything involved, I'm going straight to the top. You won't get out this office before I'm dialing 15 phone numbers. But you want them, I think what Kino says is key in communication across the board. People have to trust you, they have to believe in your integrity. They have to believe that you want what's best. I not only wanted what's best for my trainees, I wanted what's best for my administrators. They know I would go to bat for them. I would fight for them for whatever, more money, more whatever the case may be. But it had to be justified, because I'm like Kino too. Some people I'm not throwing my hat in the ring. I'm like, I don't even know what they talking about. Don't call me, because I'm not coming over there. But people that I believe in and trusted, and who trusted me. And I think that in the almost 30 years that I did that, that's what I was known for. You could count on me, and you could trust me. But it's different strategies. Sometimes you can't talk to people in your office, because people come in and what they going to see Juanita about? Something that happened, right? So even if they were just coming in to say hi and they closed the door, it was immediately a rumor started. Oh boy, something has happened. Did you see Dr. So and so go into Juanita's office? Something is going on. So I
Mhm.
couldn't meet everybody everywhere. I
Now,
had to go to them. I had to go down the street. I had to go to another building. I had to do a lot of stuff, to get the information that I needed. But they trusted me with it, and I think that that's the bottom line, Kristelle, is that they have to believe that you're doing them
mhm.
right. That you want what's best for everybody. Sometimes our trainees got away with a lot of stuff because they were trainees, and I would tell them that y'all only getting away with this because y'all trainees. We can do this as administrators because
Yeah.
they make us come in here. So don't take this for granted. And I would tell the coordinators too, sometimes you guys are getting a whole lot of stuff, and they come in here and they go, oh, y'all didn't give us a party. What did they do to get a party? What? And you're like, you know what? Everybody settle down. No parties for no one, right? So, I think that that's the key in all of this is that you have to be that person that they can rely on. Your administrators, your coordinators have to be able to rely on you as a manager, your trainees, your PDs. Everybody it has to be a team, and it can't be so personal. We make everything personal. I tell them it's not about
Yeah.
me, because I'm here to work. I have a whole life as Mrs. Braxton outside of this place here. I'm a
Right.
mom, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm
Yeah.
everything. So I can't give you guys every bit of me, because I got a life. I got church, I got sorority work, I got school. I can't. But when I'm here, I'm all yours. But
Mhm.
when I say that's it. I'm going home. So when I put my purse on, that's why I had a portion in the book about when people trying to talk to you in the elevator. I'm trying to get my salad. Here comes somebody telling me, "Oh, Juanita, I've been looking for you. I got to tell you this." And then there's some earth shaking. This trainee is missing. I'm trying to get a salad. What are you talking about? So you have to be careful of when you have conversations. You have to have boundaries. That's what we started
Yes.
with Kristine. You have to have boundaries as to when people can approach you. Work is work. Bottom line, GME work is work. But once you leave work, and bless you, Kino, for somebody to contact you at 2 a.m., that's the kind of man you are. You ring my phone at 2 a.m., somebody better be in the street with blood coming somewhere. Because
So,
I'm not, I'm all discombobulated. If somebody texts me at 2 a.m., I'm like, what happened? Somebody died? What's going on?
somebody better be
But I
dead.
think that every relationship that you build has its own parameters, has its own boundaries. Some we let
Yeah.
people take us, my PD and my chairman, they could call me anytime, because I knew if they called, it was serious. I knew they
Yeah.
weren't calling frivolously. I knew they weren't just, I got nothing else to do. I'm going to text Dr. Braxton. And some people, you give them a shorter leash, right? You're like,
Yes. Agreed.
you can only call me between 12 and 1. Everybody else get the 9 to 5. You get the lunchtime. So we have to be flexible enough that not every relationship requires its own communication strategy. Every relationship. you with your best friend, you with your favorite coordinator, you with your favorite doctor. Every relationship has its own communication strategy and boundary. And we have to be nimble enough to know that that's how it goes. We can't, it's not one size fits all, right?
Great.
It's not one size fits some. Sometimes just this one style. Sometimes you have to be the leader, the strong voice with certain people. Other times you can joke around and cajole people, and you can play around and get them to move over to your side. Sometimes you have to be the sympathetic, the empathetic one and go, oh wow, really? That's hard when you're thinking you should know this like the back of your hand, but that's the role you have to play. So, we have many faces in this job that we have to do. So hopefully that's what this book shows you, that you can be you're many different people in one body. And depending on who
Yeah.
you're talking to, I'm different when I'm talking to my chairman than I am when I'm talking to my trainee, than I am when I'm talking to my coordinator, than I am when I'm talking to housekeeping, than I am when I'm in the cafeteria, that I am when I'm in front of a conference room. I'm all those different people. And I am who I need to be at that time. But it requires us to have that skill set that we can switch up and be who we need to be in the moment. That's good communication. You are who you need to be in the moment. And they receive the information that you're sharing and you receive it back.
Great. Yeah. I think that's it right there.
I'm gonna be like you now.
You see what I'm saying? Patting down, sweating up in here. Oh, sweating up in
Ooh,
here.
let me grab mine. Let me grab mine.
Okay.
Let me grab
I don't
mine.
have heat. I'm freezing right now.
Y'all are too much, and I done kept y'all way too long. This supposed to be an hour discussion. We going on 2 hours. See, that's why I can't
Oh,
talk to people.
See, that's why I went ahead and just started and was like, forget it. We can do I said, okay, we can edit.
yeah.
We can do the intro at the
You
end.
just press the button, record. Just
You
touch
think
it.
I
Okay,
did
Like,
that,
we're gonna
right?
have to
That
edit
sounds
this
like the
conversation.
Because it's like y'all will not get it together. You all are an unruly bunch of people. I'm just
Ah!
that.
I said
not
it's too
done.
many gems. Let me record right now.
This is gonna take some editing because we didn't introduce ourselves. We didn't say where we work. We didn't say what we did. We
But
didn't say
that's
how
why I
long we
said we'll do that on the
started at.
back end, and I'll just flip it to the front, and
All
then
Right.
right.
So
All
she's about to be like, just record your voice and tell me what to do.
right. Exactly.
I'll tell y'all
Exactly.
one thing very quickly. I like the fact that it is Kristine with a K, Kristelle with a K, and Kino with a K. That's what I'm gonna say about this book.
3 Ks. That's it. This is it. This is it.
Natasha, don't. I'm
that's okay
sorry,
because
girl.
that's why I have Broxton and Brox.
Right. Okay. That's right. That's right. That's
I
right.
wanted to be like,
Braxton and
you're the one
Bronson
that
with three
selected
Ks.
us for this.
I know.
I like that.
Yes.
Exactly.
I told her, I said, no, you get whoever you want.
Right. Yes.
On with the K's. On with the K's.
All with the Ks. That's it. I wrote it down. The
Okay,
3
gang.
Ks. Right here. That's it. I thank you guys honestly for purchasing the book. I hope that something in there will be helpful.
Very much.
It's really sort of a collaboration of all the talks that I have done across the country for various groups. And the key thing that kept coming back was communication and not being able to do your job effectively because of communication flaws on both sides. And a lot of times it was not from the administrator's perspective, it was actually them reaching out, but they didn't have the tips to go, maybe I have to send this faculty member the same email every Monday at 9 a.m. without fail so that they get into a routine of seeing it and hearing it because repetition, creates a habit, right?
Right.
Sometimes I have to call this person the same time every week at noon to start the repetition that this is when I was going to call. Sometimes I had to meet with people at the same time all the time to start it off, because if I was haphazard, I met on Monday one time, Thursday another time, the second Wednesday another time, they didn't know when I was coming. So I tried to make a routine out of it so that you go, okay, it's Monday, must be 9, must be Juanita. And so, that kind of helps you. But, like I said at the end of this, you are who you are in that moment. And the important takeaway for me for this book was I wanted you to have strategies to communicate more effectively. If someone is not hearing you, like who you talking to? Are they listening? Who are you talking to? Are you talking to yourself? Did they actually hear what you said? Because, we hear a lot of information. Your TV is on all the time or music's playing in the background. And some stuff is just like Charlie Brown. It's womp, womp, womp. And you wake up and they go, oh, well, did you hear that? I'm like, I literally did not hear anything they said. And now you're racking your brain going, okay, I should get in the ballpark where they talking about, this, that. And that's how people sometimes hear us. Well, we're the want, and they're like, is she talking again?
You know what? And I want everybody else, I want everybody to go around the room, around and tell why, like, when they was reading the book, what popped to them. But I know when I was reading this book, even though I'm a director now, like when I was a coordinator, we just had a lot, right? We did this. And it was like, oh my God, it was just so much. They wanted, like you said, they wanted us to be the psychiatrist, the program coordinator. They wanted us to be a dietitian. They wanted to be the wellness coordinator. They wanted like so many roles. And so when I was reading this, I read this from a program coordinator stand of stay in your lane as a program coordinator, right? Of, okay, I'm a program coordinator, why should I jump hoops and bounds to be the psychiatrist, right? Why should I, jump hoops and bounds to, be the wellness for you? Like, why should I, let me stay in my lane. My lane is to run the program, make sure it's efficient, make sure my residents are okay, are my faculty, doing everything. That is what, when I first read this, was like, okay. So then now I put myself, let me read this again in the director role, right? What do I need? Where is my lane as being a administrative director, especially in this rural community, like what do I need to do to stay in my lane? My lane is to open up the programs, make sure everyone is accredited, make sure the faculty are board certified, make sure, we will have what we need when the residents come, just all of that. That's my lane. So when I feel like, okay, now I'm getting out of my lane of, you're one of the stakeholders, you're the leadership, why aren't you doing this? I got to go over there and talk to the COO about this. Okay, what's going on with this money? Like, so I've got to be the CFO, the COO, like all of that. That's not, my lane. So what I'm going to need for you to do as the leadership is come back to your lane and drive your car in your lane. Like, can I get the finances from you, right? Can I make sure that we get what we need for stay in your lane too. So when Kristine asks about, her person asks if this only for program coordinators, no, it is not. It is I looked at it as a professional development book for anybody who's going to read it, right? Everybody can benefit from this book. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay in my lane, but I'm going to make sure when I get to my red light, are you going to go? Are you giving me what I need? Okay, I'm going to drive to the stop sign. Okay, I need this. So to make sure we're not crashing, at a four-way stop, or I'm not like turning in a wrong way, in a one way that I don't need to be in. So when I read this, I was like, oh no, this is some good stuff, and everybody can benefit from it. So that was one of my takeaways, because I took away a lot of stuff from this book. But that was one of my takeaways when I read this book. Mm-hmm. Whoever's up next.
When I read it, so the leadership chapter, which is chapter 2, leadership strategy, I think connected with me most within this book. And it's one of the things that I like the fact that you put in a whole chapter on leadership, is that we are leaders, the program coordinator role, and it differs in terms of differs in terms of institution, region, in terms of what I would think some of like respect and whether or not it is viewed as a leadership role may vary from institution. But it is a leadership role. Natasha said she read it as a program coordinator, and you're responsible for, leading the program. And overall, I think when you say stay in your lane, your lane as a program administrator is to know your job and function within your job so well that there is no question as to your ability, your knowledge, your experience, or your expertise. And a lot of times, I think coordinators may not necessarily, grab hold of that and take it fully in control. That this here is mine to own. And you have to own that position, own it every facet of it. And your program director. So I've never had problems with program directors because a lot of times they know that I am fully engaged, involved, knowledgeable, assertive, will take charge. So they don't have to worry about whether or not I'm doing my job. They just need to focus on you doing your job. And I think this book in itself tells us that. Focus on what you have to do in your day-to-day life, your day-to-day experience. And once you utilize that, that's half the battle won. So I love that section of that chapter. And the biggest thing for me, so there are 6 P's. Remember the 6 P's for growth: professional growth, personal growth, passion, which is key, I think, for us, because many of us, we earn this business here. It's not because of the money, it's not because of the title, it's because of the love that we have for what we do day in, day out. The fourth one was persistence. The fifth was patience, and then the last was perseverance. And I think those 6 P's for growth, because when you look at it, everything that we do is evolving, as Kristine stated. Medicine evolves every day. ACGME changes regulations and rules. And if you are not growing to match that change that's taking place, you're going to be left behind. You're going to find it very difficult to stay in your lane because your lane just left you. All right. And you are still on the roundabout. You know what I'm saying?
In the roundabout.
So a lot of it, when you look at it, you just go around in circles and you can't necessarily move forward because you're not keeping abreast. And that growth that occurs, it's, it has to be holistic. It has to be something where, at my desk, we have Coursera. We use Microsoft Teams, and Coursera is a learning platform. So every day, I will just put on a Coursera thing in the background while I'm doing my work. So that, and then you can, so there are themes on leadership, on communication, you can't necessarily just host one, place of knowledge. You have to tap into every stream that is around you and that is available. And some of them you probably have to open up your own. And that's where mentorship and all these things come into play. You have to tap in and you have to create these things. And I love that this book focuses a lot on your journey to you, your journey to who you are as a communicator, who you are as a leader, what is well-being to you. And these are things that are all personal questions that you have to answer yourself, but at least the book gives you that thought-provoking, premise that, hey, these questions, how would I answer them for myself? So I think that was my big takeaway from the book. I love the 6 Ps. I love the leadership section, the leadership chapter, because I think they resonated a lot with me. And I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll go next. For me, being so new into the GME world, I mean, I've only been doing this for 2 years. It was really important to me personally and professionally to expand my library. I wanted to be a sponge. So anything I can get my hands on, I want to know, I want to learn, I want to grow. Personally, I've been trying to take a lot of leadership courses because, like Kino alluded to, we are in the CPRs described as part of the leadership team. And I mean, the fact that this is pocket size is also awesome. So we can just carry this around in our bags and be like,
Right.
look at stay in my lane. But it was funny because my partner, when I first got the book and it came in our mailbox, he looked at it and he was like, "Oh, stay in your lane, something you need to do more often." Because I'm someone that typically I'm a perfectionist and I have a very, very hard time saying no to people. I just want to help and I just want to communicate my brand, something I do as a wellness ambassador. So the wellness section definitely is what I'm going to probably reference the most here. I follow the Benatti resilience model. So there's 5 different components. If you are interested, Beth Benatti does a wonderful job of going through that. And I do give a presentation if anyone's ever interested in that. But it encompasses 5 different segments. So resilience, well-being, self-awareness, brand, and innovation. And I go through each of those. But the acronym TAKE CARE in the wellness section is what really resonated with me. It's not just a matter of taking care of your trainees and taking care of your programs and making sure they meet the deadlines and maintain accreditation and you're doing all these wonderful things for the GME world. But we talked about this earlier. A lot of us forget to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
And we forget how to communicate that we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we are people too. We have needs in our own individual paths, and we're servant leadership, right? We're doing our best to serve this community and make sure our trainees excel and make sure our programs excel. And we wear so many different hats as coordinators, but take care. Thought, action, kindness, expectation, compassion and consideration, attitude and altitude, rewarding yourself, and essential. I mean, the sky's really the limit with all of this. So I think it was just really interesting for personal and professional self-care just to take that acronym and do a deep dive and do a nice reflection. And I mean, the book definitely has, like you said, the 10 commandments of leadership. I mean, I was thrilled to see those, and the fact that those are relatively new. That came out in 2024, according to the citation that I read at the bottom. So that's something I think we need as a GME professional, that we need to bring to the forefront, and that we as a group here collectively can spearhead that conversation with the help of Dr. Braxton. Like we can bring it forward to our teams and talk about it in team meetings, and we can be the leaders and the best of to our abilities and have those conversations with people that may be struggling and maybe have those relationships and cultivate that rapport where we can be the best that we can be. And we all know the same thing and we're all communicating and dealing with various styles. So yeah, I definitely like that the book's not just a one size fits all, that it's for everyone and that there's hot topics within GME and there's things that resonate with me both personally and professionally. So that definitely is something that I appreciate. And I just want to thank Dr. Braxton for
Thank you.
being vulnerable and dedicating all this to the GME world and publishing it. I think this is something that is definitely going to behoove the entire future as well as what's to come. So,
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh goodness, how can I, even add to all this wonderful information? But my major takeaway, I could definitely piggyback off of what Kristine said, that for me it was about wellness and well-being. Again, we talk about this for our trainees and for our faculty, but we don't use it for ourselves because we're too busy nurturing these people, right? And for me, the book itself, not necessarily for a professional standpoint, although it is, but really for a personal standpoint. That's why I figured I would purchase this book. Again, I was just going through it and probably not even recognizing that I was getting burnt out. I'm like this perfectionist trying to get things done and share all this information and give a lot of myself to people, not noticing that I am draining myself. There was one thing, one word, deathbed, in the book that just like sparked something in my brain. I have little ones, and obviously you live for them, right? And then it's like, I don't want to regret anything, or, you know, God forbid something physically happening to me because I'm so passionate about my job, right? Um, but no, I need to take it back a bit. Um, Try not to crash in this lane, you know, take a step back, relax, breathe, take time for yourself. And I feel like more often than we don't do that. We don't take care of ourselves. We take care of our parents, our kids, you know, other people, but it's necessary for us to do so. Um, and the acronym, take care, I am here for it. I'm not even going to repeat it, but
Right.
I truly thank you for this book. And I when I message you on LinkedIn, you do not understand. It just came at the right time. At the right time, I was feeling down and, you know, questioning myself, like, you know, am I doing the right thing? And really and truly, sometimes you are, but
Yeah.
you're just so caught up in your own little world, then you start doubting yourself. But really and truly, as professionals, as you know, regular human beings,
Yeah.
you know, you will overcome this. And this is the reminder that I got with this. You will overcome this. You have the tools. You have the resources. You could do this, Kristelle. You're the bomb.com, right? You're the bomb.com.
That's right.
Don't let any situation take away from it. And again, this was just my little Bible in the meantime, between time. And I am definitely sharing this with like everyone. This is like this is literally a Christmas gift,
Wow.
honestly. So,
You guys
but
are a
thank
Christmas
you.
gift to me. Thank you so much. You guys are a Christmas gift to me. I couldn't have got a better December present. You know, the you all cited exactly why I wrote this book was that I've been a leader. Um, Take Care came to me, you know, in the midst of doing a conference. I know this job takes you away from doing a lot of things that you personally want to do. You know, some people wanted to cook and, you know, how do you come down off of this job? Some people travel. And I was at a conference and I had, it was probably 250 people. And I said, write down their own boutique or someone wanted to have like a mini library. And I go, why don't you do that? You know, you can walk and chew gum. You can do, you know, it's when we make one thing our whole person that we get lost,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because we need to feed our spirits and our souls from different things. So I like to teach. I'm a teacher by trade, by training. So that means I teach Bible study. That means I teach, you know, English. I teach time management. I teach whatever people need. You know, I can craft a course for you because that feeds my soul, right? Doing this job sometimes take a lot from you. So some people they love to cook. I go, why don't you cook? Why don't you have a few people over and have a dinner, or you know, showcase your cooking skills? One lady said, you know what? I'd love to work in a veterinary shelter on the weekends, but my job was taking me away from it. I said, why don't you, you know, pick one Saturday a month?
Yeah.
Go do that. You'll see a difference in the way you feel about your job during the day when you have something that feeds your whole being. And so that's this book and Take Care. We don't reward ourselves for, you know, if you had a difficult interview season, like it was just the pits, nobody wanted to cooperate. Once you finish, reward yourself. Treat your team to ice cream. Treat them to cookies. You know, I would make up a meeting because the only time we could use our cafeteria catering was if we had a meeting. So I would have a meeting for just my staff. I was like, oh, we're having an end of year meeting. And I would order all the little stuff they wanted, cake and, chicken, and it would be a hot meal. And it may be 6 of us, and we would enjoy that. I would order breakfast for them. Or I would let somebody take an hour off of them. Go home. Mm-hmm. Take a ride in your car, because this was difficult. If you had a hard year, you had a hard 6 months, reward yourself. It's worth it. It's worth it. We have to feed all of our souls. And so that's what this book and what your comments have meant to me, that you have taken this not only personally, but professionally, that you can see that it is all about you. It is. You have done everything they have asked you to do and more. And sometimes your reward won't be financial. It'll be that extra hour. It'll be that, nothing broke this month. We're doing okay. Everybody came to work. We're doing all right. Nobody needed to be hospitalized. We're doing okay. No program, no resident got in trouble. It's the small things that we kind of celebrate that gives us the push to keep going for. Someone to say thank you. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for persevering when you wanted to quit. When you're like, you know what, if I have to work another 10 minutes with him, her, and them, I'm out. And you did it. Reward yourself. Someone that says, you know what, good job, Kino. Good job, Kristelle. Good job, Natasha. Good job, Kristine. Thank you for what you've done. You go, okay, this ain't such a bad gig. I guess I can do this another month. It's just small things like that that help us to persevere. This service that we do is not honoring the people that we work with, the people that work for us, the people that work beside us, because sometimes they may not get that, right? When you come into this as a new person, you are overwhelmed. Anybody that says they're not is not telling the truth. You are over, because you don't know what you don't know, right? You're like, I'm supposed to do all of this.
Yes.
In small chunks, you can do it. And if there's someone standing with you to go, listen, I'm not going to let you fail. I'm going to do whatever I can to hold it. Now it's going to be on you. I'm going to be here to give you the best advice that I can give you, the best sound instruction I can give you. I'm going to give you the tools that you need. I'm going to show you how to do this, but you have to be invested. You have to get in the game. You can't sit on the sidelines and think this is just going to sail by you. And it will in the wrong way, right? The deadlines will be missed. But I told you. You didn't do this, but I told you. We take it to heart. And we have to share that with other people, that this is not for the faint doing this work. It's not, because it's consequences when we miss something. And it's someone's life that we are impacted if we miss something. Even as an administrator, I say stay in your lane, because we have enough work to do without trying to be the PD, without trying to be the DIO, without trying to be, the manager. Just do your job. Know your job. Kino said it perfectly. Know your job so well that you are identified by the job that you do. If you need to know something, go to Kino. If you need to know this, go to Kino. If you need to do this, go to Kino. It shouldn't be, let me ask Kino some housekeeping. Kino don't work in housekeeping. He knows this right here. You're going to have to find a housekeeper for that, because he's been identified. That's the bottom line. Stay in your lane and know what you're supposed to do. Know your position description. If you don't know it, get a copy of it. Read it. Read it again. If you're doing something outside of that, write it down, so that when you meet with someone that can change something, say, listen, this job description say I should be doing A, B, C, and D. I'm doing E and F and Z and K, and is there, like, is this temporary? This is long term? Because we're going to need to renegotiate some things. We need to know what we're doing and do what we're supposed to do. Not whatever. Don't worry about the PD. They will get there. I tell you, sir, ma'am, you need this paper to get it done, because I'm the best admin possible. I'm it. You won't get no better than that.
Ain't get no better. Ain't get no better.
This is it. You got the bomb.com right here. I'm not going to let you fail, because I can't fail. I don't want my name with no shenanigans.
Okay.
But they have to believe you. They have to believe that you're not going to let them fail. And if that means knocking on their door going, listen, they finna come for us. They coming for you. That means they're coming for me. And I'm not happy.
Correct.
But you have to know what you're supposed to do. You have to know what they're supposed to do. You need a team. Tell me what you're going to do, sir or ma'am, and I'll tell you what I can help you with. Because some stuff you can't cross over into, but know what you're supposed to do. Stay where you're placed. If you're looking to be a manager, then go for that role. Until somebody gives you that, stay right where you are. If you're the DIO, do DIO stuff. If you're the PD, do PD stuff. Don't come over here telling me what form program director, because I'm the person that has the forms. I don't need you coming over here, because I don't come over there to tell you how to do surgery, to diagnose Mrs. Jones. I don't do none of that. Stay in your lane, sir or
But you
ma'am.
probably can. You probably can, though. You probably
Absolutely.
can.
But then I'm going to have to get part of that check.
Right?
That money they make it. So that was the crux of this. And I think you guys all articulated it well. And take care of yourself. Protect your own mental health at all costs. Because when you don't have that, you have nothing.
And I'll
You have
say,
nothing. You
I
have
think,
nothing if you don't protect yourself. So
and I think
be well. Be
you
well.
touch a lot of stuff, Dr. Braxton, and but I'm just going to use one word for a lot of what you were saying. That gratitude. Gratitude is key, I think, for our survival here, because this job in itself is a very demanding one, and oftentimes we get hung up on a lot of the stuff that we may not have been able to accomplish when we wanted to accomplish it, how we wanted to accomplish it, in the time frame, etc. And we allow that to sort of just bog us down, and it seeps into our daily lives. And what I realized, and I've looked in and just looking at different things, is that we have so much to be grateful for on a daily basis. From the relationships that we have, the job in itself, the fact that it provides for our families, you know, so many people are without job, and the purpose that we fulfill by doing the jobs that this job, because as you stated, Bryce, not everybody can be a program administrator, not everybody can be a program coordinator. It takes a certain type of individual. And for you to be here working in what may be your purpose, I think that's a huge selling point and a huge plus for anyone who's involved in this type of work that we're in. And I know daily, just seeing my residents graduate, and I love seeing them when they come in as an interview candidate, and they
I
unsure
miss that.
of
I miss
themselves.
that.
Yes. And then they leave to the point where I'm texting. I'm like, hey, my back is hurting me. What do you prescribe? What do you do this? You understand?
Right.
So like I had all these texts, Kino, do X, Y, Z over the weekend. And then I went and I got this stuff, and my back started to feel better. But that's the transformation that you as a program administrator is involved in. And I think, and part of it, you're responsible for that transition, part of the transition you're responsible for. So I think a lot of it is just being thankful for the opportunity that has been given to you in spite of all of the struggles, the turmoils, the issues that we have. And anywhere you go, you're going to see that existing in that place, in that profession, in that institution. So, take care of yourself. I love the take care acronym, and I follow that precisely. And I thought the book overall was a good guide for persons to follow.
I want to hit on something you said was when you were talking, Dr. Braxton, was reward yourself. You don't have one word, I got two. You said reward yourself. I know in this job, sometimes it is a thankless job. We do what we do because we love it, right? This is our passion. So a lot of times it is a thankless job. We are the last to get, to say, someone to say thank you, or, oh, I like that, or, congratulations on this. So when you talk about, reward yourself, I know and I've told several of my people who are coached to do the same thing. Like when I was going through my undergrad, every time I got an A, I would buy myself, I have a Pandora bracelet. I would buy myself a charm. That was my reward, right? Do something for yourself at every stage. And so now, several people, they, if it's a little handbag, or I have this one girl, she will put like 100, every time something big happens, she'll put $100 away because she wants to buy her, this nice expensive purse.
Right.
But you have to do something for you to
Agreed.
reward yourself. So
Agreed.
when you said that, I'm like, that's right. So
Yeah.
going through undergrad, going through, masters, like I would do something because no one's gonna pat me on my back and say, "Hey, thank you,
Yep.
good job for getting the A on that class," or
Yep.
"Hey, you got your bachelor or your master, good job." No one's gonna do that, or they're not gonna say, "You kept us from getting a site visit." They're
Right.
not gonna say that. Thank you for being on our backs to make sure we did X, Y, and Z
Right.
because you kept us from getting that site
Right.
visit. They're not
Right.
gonna do that.
Kept
So
us on probation.
right, exact, or probation, or even a resident. Oh, thank you for, I didn't get written up. They're not going to say thank you for making sure all of the evaluations came through for the CCC, right?
Right.
They're not going to do that. So
Right.
whether it's professionally or personally, like when you hit certain milestones, and you did a good job, sometimes you just got to reward yourself because
Yes,
no
you
one's
do.
going to reward you
Right.
because
Right.
this is just what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah. And the same for your team. If you have a team of people that work for you or work with you, or someone has partnered with you and they help, it doesn't, that's the best $5, $10, $20 spent is to
Yeah.
give them a Starbucks gift card or
Yep.
or some kind of thank you for just
Goes a
being there for
long
me.
way.
You didn't have to do that. And
It goes a
and
long way.
especially teams, like we have other coordinators that work in our sections or it's been a hard time for someone and you just, hey, I just wanted to treat you to coffee today, or I thank you for staying late all those days. No one gives us a graduation party at the end of our employment.
I like
So I
that. I
made it
like
a
that.
point to give my team, something every year.
Agreed.
So we would go
Yeah.
eat somewhere. We would use the department's money to go somewhere and, sit down. We would take a day to go, to some kind of retreat or something like that. Because, people want to be rewarded for what they did. You want to. And I did mine, Natasha, when I was getting my PhD, it was so many milestones in there that once you got over one hurdle, you was thanking God and everybody else for getting that far. So I would probably got a ton of stuff because it was that intense doing that, and I felt like my workplace was that too, and I felt like the people that worked with me and for me always did the extra mile. If
Yeah.
I would ask them to stay late, they wouldn't complain. And they would, because I can hear them grumbling. They don't think I know it, but I know they was complaining. But they would stay anyway, or they would rearrange their schedules and go, you know what, Juanita, I know we all have to be here, late, so let me have my husband go pick up the kids or whatever the case. And I knew they did some sacrificing. And even if they didn't, I appreciated them for even thinking enough of me because many people now, 9 to 5, 5:01, they don't want to see you and you don't want to see them. It, so if someone stays late or comes in early or just goes the extra mile or just kind, just being nice works. So reward yourself, reward those that are around you. We're not saying spend $1 million, but it doesn't hurt to say thank you. It doesn't hurt to, give them a special treat if they like a favorite candy or soda. Now that I've been away for a while, but now that you guys have so much remote work, I don't know how you connect now because everybody's at their house and you ask them to come in, that's like a federal crime. And so I don't know how you do it, but you have to figure out a way because I think the issue that you all are having today is in part and parcel because you're remote. You're not together anymore. You don't talk to one another. You don't see each other. So you got like these virtual sessions. And so people are not connected. They're just not. They come and do their little work and they go home, right? They clock in from their living room. They take off the shirt because they got pajama bottoms on and flip flops and everything. Turn around and go back in the house, and that's it. But for even when I was doing that, I would make it a point that we would all have to come in one day. Everybody would have to come in together. One day we all were at work together because we needed to lay eyes on each other. We need to be able to communicate and to connect with each other. Then we can go back to our, we're out, working in the office 3 days a week, home 2 days a week. But it's important that you maintain a connection with each other, because if not, it's lost. It's lost. And people need to be told, are you in your lane or not? Do you need help? Let me see you. You may be suffering in silence, because a lot of times people won't tell you when they're struggling, right? You find a missed deadline or something hasn't happened. But sometimes if they come in and you can look at them, something is right here. What's going on? They got a lot of stuff going on personally. And they're just in there, as Kristelle said, you're in your lane. You're not even focusing on stuff around you. You're just doing what needs to be done. And that's not healthy. Sometimes you need to just put it down, walk away, come back. Nobody's hurt or harmed. Yep, say I'll be with you in a minute. Give me 20 minutes to close this door and go, you know what? This job is terrible. And talk yourself up and down and around, and then open the door and go, okay, I'm ready to receive people again. What's happening? What's going on? All right, I'm back. Let's do this. So, I appreciate you guys really. I hope this book becomes a professional development tool in many offices. I made it simple for a reason, because in here is a lot of tips that I have learned from being in sororities. My husband belongs to a Corvette club. And so when I came out with the book, I take my book everywhere. And someone mentioned it. They said, Peter wrote a book. And I was like, these dudes ain't going to buy this book. Almost every one of them bought the book. And they're like, it is a help in a way that I didn't think, because even when we're doing stuff here in the club, we need to know what our leadership, maybe that's why, we don't get a lot of stuff done. It's because, we're bumping heads and we're doing different things. So it works for many different groups and many different types of people. So I'm hoping that, it's just here to help someone. And it has already helped you three. So I'm satisfied. If it don't help another person, I'm good to go. I am straight.
A lot of people.
I am done. It has done what I wanted to do. So I thank you all for your support and for your love and your encouragement. And I'm here for you. If you ever use this book in any of your forums and you need me to come say something, speak on it,
love it.
Just ask me and I'll be there.
And with that, we complete another episode. GME Admin Insights with Dr.
Thank you guys for staying so long.